Good evening. I'm Chris Jansing in for Brian Williams. Day 303 of the Biden administration. And tonight there is breaking news on Capitol Hill. A very late night for the House, which was expected to vote on Joe Biden's sprawling $1.75 trillion domestic plan hours ago. But what we've seen so far tonight is a marathon effort to stall the vote from Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy. He's been talking for right around 2.5 hours now, periodically interrupted by jeers from the Democrats. Here's a sampling of what he's had to say about the president's Build Back Better plan.
You know what Americans you're going after? 1/2 of those 1.2 million are people who earn $75,000 or less. That's what you're trying to pay this bill from. House is not in order, Mr. Speaker.
House will be in order.
That as Americans, we're supposed to expect less. I can look anywhere I want, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I cannot believe the amount of control one-party rule wants. They now want to dictate to a member of the floor of where I can look.
Now, this performance is largely for effect. No Republicans were ever expected to cross the aisle to support the measure anyhow. This all comes just days after Biden signed his infrastructure bill into law. Its passage would be another hard-fought victory for the president, who spent months negotiating with liberal and moderate Democrats. The battle is far from over, however. The bill now goes to the Senate, where Democrats will now all have to get on the same page if the Build Back Better proposal is to become law. Meanwhile, House members investigating the January 6th Capitol riot appear to be losing patience with former Trump White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. The panel has been trying to get Meadows to comply after he defied its subpoena, citing Trump's claim of executive privilege. Today, the committee indicated it may be ready to ratchet up the pressure.
Well, we're in the final stages of what we're going to be doing for these next steps here. But Mr. Meadows is on notice, and he knows very well what we want, the questions that we want to ask to him. And there has been discussion with his legal representatives. And so he just continues to stonewall. And I think we've shown very clearly what happens when individuals stonewall. His conversations about stopping a free and fair election, about criticizing and stopping the counting of electoral votes, about his coordination with campaign officials on private devices that were not turned over. All of those issues are not privilege worthy, and he has some explaining to do.
The committee's other subpoena denier, Trump ally Steve Bannon, is continuing to fight his contempt of Congress charges. Today, his lawyers tried to get a federal judge to slow walk his case and delay his next hearing until next year. The judge basically said no deal and set the next court date for December 7th. While these two Trump allies may be avoiding the January 6th committee, today Meadows and Bannon were together on Bannon's podcast, speculating about a new role for Donald Trump.
I would love to see the gavel go from Nancy Pelosi to Donald Trump. You're talking about melting down. People would go crazy. As you know, you don't have to be an elected member of Congress to be the speaker. Wouldn't you see she would go from tearing up a speech to having to give the gavel to Donald Trump? Oh, she would go crazy.
President Trump came for 100 days and sort things out and then step out and announce his 2024 campaign.
Ironically, the man who hopes to be the next speaker today, the man who's holding up Biden's spending bill tonight, said he's been in contact with Trump as recently as this morning.
He called up. He was on the golf course.
Did he talk about yesterday at all, or?
No.
Campaign
Catching
stuff?
up, just him. No, wasn't even campaign either.
Now, that question about yesterday refers to the censure of Arizona Republican Paul Gosar. We'll have much more on the fallout from that later in the hour. Also tonight, a new report appears to tie Kimberly Guilfoyle, a fundraiser for Trump and girlfriend of his son, Don Jr., to efforts to finance the rally that was held before the January 6th insurrection. ProPublica reports Guilfoyle bragged to a Republican operative that she had raised $3 million for the rally. Quote, in a series of text messages sent on January 4th to Katrina Pearson, the White House liaison to the event, Guilfoyle detailed her fundraising efforts and supported a push to get far-right speakers on the stage alongside Trump for the rally. Guilfoyle's texts, reviewed by ProPublica, represent the strongest indication yet that members of the Trump family circle were directly involved in the financing and organization of the rally. The January 6th committee subpoenaed Katrina Pearson back in September. Kimberly Guilfoyle says so far she has not received any official requests from Congress. Her attorney tells ProPublica she had nothing to do with fundraising or approving speakers for that January 6th rally. There are also developments in two of the most closely watched trials in the nation right now. Closing arguments set for Monday in the trial of the three white men accused of killing Ahmaud Arbery. Both sides rested their cases this afternoon after a day in which one of the defendants admitted under cross-examination Arbery had not shown a weapon or verbally threatened him, said he hadn't spoken at all before he was gunned down. And in Kenosha, Wisconsin, jurors in the trial of Kyle Rittenhouse appear to be focusing on the instructions about the charges. The panel deliberated for a third day with no verdict. Late today, the judge agreed to a request from one juror to take those instructions home. And sources tell NBC News the FDA may be just hours away from signing off on Pfizer and Moderna vaccine boosters for all adults in the U.S. That decision expected to come as soon as tomorrow.